Good day, everyone. My name is Rosario Bercasio, Professor, Bicol University, Legazpi City. It is my pleasure to share with you the results of the study entitled Promoting Lifelong Learning Through Institutionalization of Community Engagements of Bicol University Students. The academe constantly evolves to respond to the needs of the society. As a socially engaged institution, the Academe serves as a training ground of future leaders and professionals who are capable of generating knowledge and innovations which are geared towards common good. The holistic education then should emphasize authentic and active learning that goes beyond the classroom. Among the strategic options to cater to the demands of the 21st century education for authentic and active learning is emphasis on community engagement. Community engagement refers to all negotiated and dynamic partnerships between the university and a community, which is practiced through varied initiatives in teaching and learning, research, and extension. It refers to collaboration between the university and communities for mutually beneficial exchange of knowledge and resources in the context of partnership and reciprocity. This study attempted to attain four objectives. One, validate a framework for the mainstreaming of community engagement. Two, design guidelines integrating the effective policies and the good practices on immersion and practicum. Third, determine the alignment of the proposed guidelines to 21st century framework of education, university institutional learning outcomes, and principles of lifelong learning. And fourth, assess the proposed policy as a mechanism for promoting lifelong learning in the context of inclusive development. This study is a qualitative research. It is descriptive and developmental, and it also used documentary analysis. Among the data gathering strategies are documentary analysis, focus group discussions, key informants interviews, and critiquing of outputs by stakeholders through concerned committee and council. The key informants were extension coordinators, college student council advisors, student affairs services coordinators, department chairs, and deans. This study was conducted in Bicol University in 2018 to 2019. For the framework for the mainstreaming of community engagement, it is stated that community engagement is interspersed in the threefold mandates of the university: instruction, research, and extension. Its dynamics considers the dictates of ethics, the institutional vision and mission, the program standards, as well as the approaches appropriate for community engaged pedagogy. This engagement is founded on strong principles that speak of scholarship, integration of the mandates of the university, attainment of institutional learning outcomes, and mutual partnership with the community. A well-grounded community engagement of both the students and the faculty implemented in a context that values and fosters real inclusivity is expected to the attainment of community engagement core competencies, which are the following: critical thinking, integrative and problem solving skills, social consciousness and civic responsibility, respect for diversity and inclusivity, local, global, and intercultural comprehension, innovative and creative skills, communication and collaborative skills, and professionalism. The students and the faculty who attain these community engagement core competencies become lifelong learners who are considered as global citizens. The implementation of community engagement, therefore, brings on inclusive development which benefits both the people involved, the institution, and the community at large. This proposed framework can be illustrated in this paradigm. For the second objective, the guidelines on community engagement, integrating the effective policies and the good practices related to immersion and practicum, we are able to draft a policy composed of the following parts: preamble, purpose, scope, legal basis, community engagement framework, which I have presented earlier, principles, definitions, community engagement core competencies, community engagement activities, general rules, ethics, and repealing clause. Since the proposed community engagement policy is lengthy, I will present sample provisions only. For instance, I have chosen the principles as shown in this slide. The provisions specifically say the university's steadfast support to community engagement is anchored on the following principles. Community engagement is a form of scholarship. 2. It is integrated in instruction, research, and extension. It is a tool for attaining the institutional learning outcomes and in molding lifelong learners as agents of development and transformation. It is a mutually beneficial partnership between the university and a community. It is a strategy to establish relevance and impact of the university. It is a strategy to develop global citizens who are capable of addressing issues and challenges through social innovation. And last, community engagement, if long term, is a strategy to promote self reliance and sustainability and not to foster dependence on the university. Other sample provisions can be seen in this slide. The specific provision is entitled Community Engagement Core Competencies. The community engagement core competencies are anchored on the university vision of producing leader and change agents for social transformation and development, the university institutional learning outcomes, as well as on global citizenship education framework. These CECC are addressed by the different community engagement activities and therefore shall form part of the competencies to be addressed by the different types of community engagement activities. There are 7 community engagement core competencies, which I already mentioned when I presented the proposed community engagement framework. Other sample provisions in the proposed university community engagement policy pertain to the general rules. Here are 3 sample provisions. 1. All community engagement activities should be anchored on the community engagement core competencies and the program learning outcomes, or the college, office, department, or organization's mandate or mandates, respectively. 2. The specific guidelines for community engagement activities in the different programs or colleges shall be in accordance to existing relevant policies of the university or as prescribed by the relevant CHED Memorandum Order. Those without specific guidelines shall be based on this policy and referred to the university president for appropriate action. 3. All community engagement activities should obtain approval from concerned office or offices. All credit-based community engagement activities should be explicitly stated in the approved course program or syllabi. All non-credit-based community engagement activities should be approved either as a standalone or as part of a program or project of a student organization, faculty, department, office, college, or university by appropriate authorities. On this slide, you can see the documentation of the workshop on the analysis of syllabi in terms of student community engagement, as well as the presentation of the proposed university policy on student community engagement during the Administrative Council meeting. For objective number 3, alignment of the proposed community engagement guidelines to 21st century framework of education, university institutional learning outcomes, and principles of lifelong learning. Results show that the proposed community engagement policy is fully aligned in 6 specific 21st century skills and partially aligned to 5 specific 21st century skills. Also, the proposed community engagement policy is found to be fully aligned to the 4 institutional learning outcomes of Bicol University. Findings also show that the proposed community engagement policy is fully aligned to the 3 features of lifelong learning and partially aligned to the 2 features. The 3 features are the following. 1, awareness of the fact that valuable learning takes place beyond HEI. Understanding learning as a continuous need of individuals throughout their lives. And recognizing that a learning society and a learning organization are better alternatives to deal with such changes. Also, results reveal that the proposed community engagement policy is fully aligned to 2 of the fundamental principles of lifelong learning, which are centrality of the learners and high quality and relevance, and partially aligned to 1 principle, which is equality of opportunity. For objective number 4, looking at the proposed university community engagement policy as a mechanism to promote lifelong learning, you can see on table 5 that the objectives of lifelong learning include personal fulfillment, active citizenship, social inclusion, and employability and adaptability. On the second column, you can see the 7 community engagement core competencies, which are critical thinking, integrative and problem-solving skills, social consciousness and civic responsibility, respect for diversity and inclusivity, local, global, and intercultural comprehension, innovative and creative skills, communication and collaborative skills, and professionalism. The objectives of lifelong learning and the proposed community engagement core competencies have contiguousness and commonality. Also, the different community engagement activities either directly attain 1 or combination of lifelong learning objectives, or indirectly attain 1 or combination of lifelong learning objective or objectives. Therefore, we can take a look at the different community engagement activities either as a form of lifelong learning or as an enabler of lifelong learning. Considering these results, the following are the conclusions. The validated community engagement framework shows that community engagement is interspersed in instruction, research, and extension, and ultimately aims at producing lifelong learners who will be contributors to inclusive development. 2, the proposed university community engagement policy integrated the effective policies and good practices related to immersion, on-the-job training, community outreach, and practicum. Third, the proposed university community engagement policy is fully aligned to 21st century skills in terms of learning and innovation skills and life and career skills, to the university learning outcomes, and to the features and principles of lifelong learning. The proposed university community engagement policy has contiguousness and commonality to lifelong learning. The community engagement activities either serve as a form of lifelong learning or as enabler of lifelong learning. Considering these conclusions, these are the salient recommendations. Revise the proposed university community engagement policy and submit to concerned authorities for approval. Disseminate the proposed university community engagement policy to different stakeholders. That ends the presentation on community engagement. Let us remember the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. Thank you very much for viewing.